Tonight, you are going to climb into a bed, pull a blanket over your body, close your eyes, and try to disappear for 8 hours, alone. And if you sleep badly, you will probably blame your mattress, your phone, your stress, your caffeine intake. You will blame almost everything except the one thing nobody ever talks about: the possibility that sleeping alone is one of the strangest things a human being has ever done. Not strange because it is wrong, strange because it is new, radically, historically, evolutionarily new. And your body has not caught up. For the vast majority of human existence, sleeping alone was not a personal choice. It was not even a concept. It was something that happened when you were abandoned, sick, or dying. The idea that a healthy adult would voluntarily lie down in a dark room by themselves, separated from every other human body, sealed behind a door, in silence, and call that normal rest, would have been incomprehensible to your ancestors. Not unusual, incomprehensible. So what did they do instead? And why does it still matter to you right now, tonight? Your species is approximately 300,000 years old. For roughly 299,700 of those years, humans slept in groups, not side by side for comfort, for survival. The dark was not romantic. The dark was the most dangerous stretch of every single day. Predators moved at night. Rivals moved at night. A sleeping human is a defenseless human. So the body solved the problem the only way it could. It made sleeping alone feel wrong. Anthropologist David Samson has spent years studying sleep patterns in modern hunter-gatherer communities, the closest living analog to how your ancestors lived. What he found overturned almost every assumption sleep researchers had made. These communities did not follow a strict sleep schedule. They did not all go to sleep at the same time and wake at the same time. Instead, individuals drifted in and out of sleep in overlapping waves across the night, so that at almost any given moment, at least one or two people in the group were awake and alert. Samson called this the sentinel hypothesis. The group was never fully asleep, it was never fully unguarded, and no individual had to carry that weight alone. Think about what that means for your body. Your nervous system evolved inside that arrangement. It was calibrated to the sounds and warmth and breathing rhythms of other bodies nearby. It was built to read the group as information. If the people around you were breathing slowly and deeply, the environment was safe enough to surrender to sleep. If someone stirred suddenly or the breathing pattern broke, your brain would shift upward toward alertness before you were even consciously aware of why. Other bodies were not just company, they were data. They were a living security system that your nervous system learned to read over hundreds of thousands of years. Now remove them. Put yourself in a sealed room. Silence, darkness, no other heartbeat within range, no breath pattern to sync with, just you and the inside of your own skull. Your nervous system does not interpret that as peace and quiet. On some level, on a very old and wordless level, it interprets that as a threat condition. Because in the environment your brain was built for, that kind of silence meant something had gone wrong. Matthew Walker, neuroscientist and author of one of the most comprehensive studies on human sleep, has documented what happens to the brain when it perceives social isolation during rest. Stress hormones rise. The amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for threat detection, increases its activity. The body becomes physiologically more alert, not less. Not because anything is actually dangerous, but because the absence of other humans triggers an ancient alarm. The alarm that says you have been separated from the group, and separation from the group, for most of human history, meant you were in serious trouble. This is not a metaphor. This is not a poetic reading of evolutionary history. There is measurable biological data showing that humans who sleep alone consistently report lighter, more fragmented sleep than those who share a sleep environment, even when controlling for factors like noise and mattress quality. The difference is not the mattress. The difference is the presence or absence of another breathing body. Researcher Wendy Troxel at the Rand Corporation studied thousands of couples and found something the sleep industry almost never talks about. People who sleep with a long-term partner, despite the conventional wisdom that a partner's movements and sounds disrupt sleep, actually report better sleep quality overall, not worse, better. The presence of a trusted person appears to directly downregulate the brain's threat monitoring system. It tells the amygdala to stand down. It signals that the sentinel is on duty, that someone else is here, that you do not have to hold the watch alone tonight. But here is where it gets stranger. It is not just adults. Across virtually every human culture ever studied, infants and young children have historically slept with their caregivers. The practice is so universal that anthropologists consider it the default human-infant sleep arrangement. Mother-infant co-sleeping was not a cultural trend or a parenting philosophy. It was biology. The infant's breathing, heart rate, and temperature regulation are all directly influenced by proximity to the caregiver's body. Pediatric researcher James McKenna at the University of Notre Dame has spent decades documenting what he calls the breast sleeping dyad, the biological unit of mother and infant during sleep, and has shown that the two bodies mutually regulate each other across the night. The infant is not just sleeping near the mother. The infant's body is using the mother's body as part of its own sleep architecture. Now track that developmental arc forward. A species whose infants sleep in physical contact with their caregivers, whose children sleep in communal groups, whose hunter-gatherer adults sleep in overlapping sentinel waves within arm's reach of each other. And then, somewhere in the last few hundred years of a 300,000-year history, in one particular region of the world, during a particular economic transformation called industrialization, that entire architecture collapses. Suddenly there are separate rooms, separate beds. Sleep becomes a private act, a solo performance, measured against an ideal of unbroken 8-hour silence that no human body in history had ever actually experienced before. The shift happened fast, faster than evolution moves. The mattress industry grew, the self-help industry grew, the sleep medication industry grew, and somewhere in the noise of all that growth, nobody stopped to ask whether the problem was not that people were sleeping wrong, but that people were sleeping alone. In many parts of the world today, that shift never fully happened. In Japan, the practice of inamuri, brief restorative sleep taken in the presence of others, in offices, on trains, in public spaces, is not only accepted but carries social prestige. It signals that a person is so engaged with life, so productively exhausted by participation, that the body simply takes what it needs when it can. Sleep is not something you do in isolation. It is something that happens inside the fabric of social life. In many indigenous communities across Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Americas, the solitary bedroom is still a foreign concept. Families sleep together not out of poverty or necessity, but out of an understanding so old it has never needed to be articulated, that the night is a shared experience. That consciousness loosening its grip should happen inside a web of known and trusted presences, not in sealed solitude. And yet most people reading this live in the other world, the world of the single bed, the closed door, the silent room. And if that world is leaving you restless, if your sleep is lighter than you think it should be, if you wake in the small hours feeling a tension you cannot name, consider what your body might actually be trying to say. It is not malfunctioning. It is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is listening for the group. It is waiting for the sound of another breath. It is running software that is 300,000 years old in a hardware setup that is about 150 years old. And the software keeps throwing up the same alert. Something is missing. Something that used to be here is gone. You do not have to change how you sleep tonight, but the next time you lie awake in the dark and feel that unnamed restlessness, that low hum of something not quite right, you might consider that it is not anxiety, it is not insomnia, it is not a personal failure, it is memory, encoded not in your mind but in your nervous system, the memory of every ancestor who slept surrounded by the warmth of people they trusted, the memory of a time when the night was something you survived together. Tonight, when you pull that blanket over yourself and close your eyes, you will do something your ancestors would not have recognized as rest, but your body still will. It will keep listening, it will keep waiting, and somewhere in the silence of your room, it will still be looking for the group,